Today, we delve into one of Arkansas's most tragic and overlooked disasters, the explosion of the steamboat Sultana. On April 27th, 1865, just weeks after the end of the Civil War, this vessel became a floating inferno on the Mississippi River, claiming over 1,500 lives, more than the Titanic. Yet, it's barely remembered today. Why? Join me as we reconstruct this nightmare from the war torn backdrop to the heroic tales of survival. Let's set sail into the past. For our story, we're going to the spring of 1865 on the Mississippi River, recently swollen from floods, currents raging, and a lifeline for trade and transport in a nation healing from 4 years of brutal civil war. The Sultana was a typical steamboat of the era. Built in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1863, she was 260 feet long, 42 feet wide, with four massive boilers powering her twin paddle boats. Designed for the cotton trade between St. Louis and New Orleans, she could legally carry just 376 passengers and crew. But on this fateful trip, greed and desperation would turn her into a death trap. Owned by Captain James Cass Mason, the Sultana had seen routine service, ferrying goods, and even troops during the war. But as the Confederacy collapsed, thousands of Union prisoners of war, emaciated survivors from hellish camps like Andersonville in Georgia and Cahaba in Alabama, were released and desperate to head north. The U.S. government offered steamboat captains lucrative contracts, $5 per enlisted man and $10 per officer transported. This set the stage for a disaster. To understand the Sultana's doom, we must rewind to April 1865. The Civil War was finally over. On April 9th, General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Appomattox. But joy turned to sorrow when President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated on April 14th. News that spread slowly down the river, carried by boats like the Sultana itself. Meanwhile, Union prisoners of war faced a new battle: survival after release. Andersonville, infamous for its overcrowding and disease, held 45,000 prisoners over 14 months. 13,000 died there. Cahaba was scarcely better. By late April, over 2,000 of these men from states like Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee gathered in Vicksburg, Mississippi, awaiting transport home. They were weak, malnourished, but hopeful. Unfortunately, this is where corruption enters the story. Army Quartermaster Reuben Hatch, with a shady history of graft, oversaw the contracts. Bribes flowed. One captain allegedly paid $100 to secure the load. Despite the warnings, the Sultana was chosen even though her boilers had sprung a leak en route from New Orleans. On April 21st, the Sultana left New Orleans with light cargo, 70 passengers, livestock, and 100 hogshead of sugar. By April 23rd, in Vicksburg, a boiler leak was discovered, a bulging seam spewing steam. Engineers urged a full replacement, but Captain Mason opted for a quick patch to avoid losing the prisoner of war's contract. Quote, "It'll hold," end quote, he reportedly said. Then came the overload. 1,950 paroled prisoner of war soldiers, 22 guards from the 58th Ohio Volunteer Infantry, plus 70 paying passengers and 85 crew, totaling over 2,100 souls on a boat meant for 376. Decks sagged under the weight. Men crammed everywhere, even on the hurricane deck and wheelhouses. A photo taken in Helena, Arkansas on April 26th captures this. The boat looks like a floating anthill. The Sultana departed Vicksburg against a strong flood stage current, stopping in Memphis that evening to unload sugar and take on coal. Around midnight, she crossed to the Arkansas side for more coal, then headed north. Most passengers slept fitfully, dreaming of home. It was 2 a.m. on April 27th, 7 miles north of Memphis. The night was dark, the river cold and swift. Suddenly, boom. Three of the four boilers exploded in a chain reaction, ripping the boat apart. Scalding steam and shrapnel tore through the decks. The pilot house collapsed, killing Captain Mason instantly. Flames erupted from the shattered boilers, engulfing the wooden structure in minutes. Hundreds died in the blast, scalded, crushed by falling timbers, or drowned as the boat listed. The overcrowding worsened the panic. Men jumped into the frigid water, clinging to debris, horses, or each other. The Sultana burned to the waterline and sank by dawn, drifting to the Arkansas shore near Mound City, now Marion, Arkansas. Eyewitnesses described hell. Quote, the air was filled with cries of the wounded and dying, end quote. One survivor recalled. Alligators were rumored to feast on bodies, but that's a myth. The real horror was the cold water claiming the weak. Amid the terror, stories of heroism emerged. Private Chester Berry of the 20th Michigan Infantry swam ashore with two comrades on his back. Anna Annis, a civilian passenger, floated on a door until rescued. Many clung to cotton bales or the boat's wreckage for hours. Rescue came slowly. The steamboat Bostonia II and USS Essex picked up survivors, ferrying them to Memphis hospitals. Locals opened their homes. The Chicago Opera Troupe held a benefit concert. Of the 21 aboard, estimates say 760 to 931 survived initially, but 200 more died from burns and exposure. Only 913 ex-POWs made it out of 1,960. Bodies washed ashore for weeks, overwhelming Memphis and Arkansas communities. Hundreds were buried in mass graves at Memphis National Cemetery, three civilians at Elmwood Cemetery. Three investigations followed. A military commission blamed overcrowding and negligence, but court martialed no one. Hatch and others escaped due to connections. Congress and the War Department echoed this, citing bribes and poor repairs. No prosecutions. The disaster faced amid post war chaos and Lincoln's death. So, what caused the explosion? The official verdict: mismanaged boiler water levels. The overloaded boat careened in the current, sloshing water away from boilers, creating hot spots. When water returned, it flashed to steam, bursting the patched, brittle tubes. Murky river water clogged flues, worsening issues. Modern analysis confirms faulty design and materials doomed her. Sabotage theories like a Confederate, quote, coal torpedo, end quote, were debunked. The real culprits were greed and haste. The Sultana's legacy endures. Survivors formed an association in the 1880s. Descendants reunite annually. Arkansas honors it with Sultana Remembrance Day and a museum in Marion, where the wreck lies buried under farmland. A proposed U.S. mint coin may soon commemorate it. This tragedy reminds us in war's shadow, human error can amplify suffering. All right, guys, and that is the video. As always, thank you so much for watching. I always greatly appreciate it. I hope you had a great time listening to the story regarding the Sultan disaster in Marion, Arkansas, up by Memphis. It was very neat researching what exactly happened. Obviously, that was a tragic event, but the museum and the remembrance that is put on every year annually by Marion, Arkansas, for the remembrance of this catastrophe uh, is very honorable by the community. Now, this event, I actually didn't know anything about it. So, if you know anything about disasters, weird things that happen in Arkansas, please drop those in the comments or simply DM me. I am always open to suggestions. If I really like it, I may put it in the next video. Other than that, thank you for watching, and as always, take care.